Welcome to season 2 of It Takes a Family, a podcast that helps take parenting from desperation to hope. I'm one of your hosts, Andy.
Hey, and I'm one of your co-hosts, Kelly. Once a week, we'll highlight experts and other parents like you who have been in the trenches of parenting, bringing hard lessons learned and insights on how to navigate even the most difficult of family circumstances.
If you are new to this season, this will be groundbreaking. If not, this is the 4th time you've heard. But this season, we are tackling the Gen Z mental health crisis head on using groundbreaking research from the Barna Group and Dr. Stephanie Shackelford.
Yes. Hey, and we've broken the season down into 6 vital themes, everything from navigating technology to caring for our own health as parents. We're splitting each topic into 2 parts. In part 1, we look at the data and practical tips with Dr. Shackelford. And in part 2, we'll bring in a guest to show us some practical ideas of how to even implement them further in our own homes.
All right, today's episode, we're part 1 of our discussion on Change the Story, and Stephanie is back with us. And so, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. We're glad you're back with us.
Good to be back.
All right, so typically we talk about a question that we're going to ask on the front end. This time, I'm going to surprise you.
Oh. I was not prepared for that.
I know. It's really fun to have somebody who's a doctor and is always prepared, not prepared.
That's no fair.
I know.
I think she's got it.
It's
Whatever
fair. I know
it is,
she.
she's
I
got
know
it.
she. Okay, so the topic's Change the Story. So I'm curious if you could go back and tell the 16-year-old version of Stephanie something. What would you tell her? What would you help her change the story and contextualize in her struggles at 16?
Oh,
That's good.
I mean, how deep do you want in?
We want deep. We
I
want
just asked the
deep.
question.
I think I would try to tell her to have a bigger perspective that grades and others' perceptions of you are not the whole story and do not define everything about you.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty
I think
good.
I would tell 16-year-old Andy the same thing, scratch the grades. 16-year-old Andy was not so concerned about the grades, but very
Stephanie
concerned.
was very concerned about the grades.
I was very concerned about what others thought of me. The grades was a secondary. I get it, Mom and Dad. I'll study later. Yeah. What would you tell 16-year-old version of Kelly?
I think to get outside myself more. Very self-absorbed. So to just be more aware of what's going on in other people and how could I maybe be a blessing to them.
You would be the first 16-year-old that's ever self-absorbed.
I actually just had that same conversation with myself this morning, but it's okay.
Well, I mean, it's so interesting. Like the 16-year-old versions of us just sort of project down the I still need to preach that same
Yeah.
story to myself every day of it's not about what others think of you.
Yes.
The Lord loves you no matter what.
And I'm like, I'm so sick of me. What? Get off yourself. Go be a blessing to somebody else.
Which is a great segue into what we're talking about because
now.
Because one of the things that we want to help Gen Z do and we want to equip parents to help them do is to help change the story. So your research bears out that Gen Z sees their life through a therapeutic lens.
Yes.
What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yes. So this was interesting because for this research, I spoke to over a dozen experts, many in the fields of psychology or child development, and they were also telling me that we're too therapeutic for society, which was interesting coming from people in the field.
Right.
Yeah.
And basically what they're saying is that we are so oversaturated in this language of self-help and self-diagnosis. So anytime a young person is feeling distress, they want a diagnosis, a solution, a quick fix, a therapeutic diagnosis, essentially. And that's not always, sometimes we just have struggles and hard things.
Bad day.
Sometimes there are diagnoses. That's not to discredit those. And we'll talk about,
Yes.
all the caveats. But by and large, we're really ruled by our emotions today. And that is the end all be all. That is telling you the whole story of what you need to know instead of using our emotions as an indicator light of what could be going on. We're using our emotions as the full story. And that must be reality.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then sort of as we are processing that, and then we're self-diagnosing, well, that means I have blank, and
Yes.
therefore I need, whatever it might be.
Yes.
Because of that. Yeah, that's really interesting.
And
Okay.
that's why I am the way I am.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
So how do we get here?
I know. I just feel like even 5 years ago, it wasn't as
Mm-hmm.
extreme as it is now.
Certainly wasn't as pervasive. No.
Yeah.
So it just
Yeah. I mean, I think there's lots of different, I mean, you can track it of a slow movement towards this in our society
Right.
and this
Yeah.
therapeutic mindset.
yes.
Where previous generations really shut out emotions, you ignore emotions. We've really swung the pendulum the other way.
Right.
Yes.
But then I think certainly social media and just our connectedness online has really enhanced this in terms of, Gen Z's response to feelings of distress is to go to TikTok, ask ChatGPT. We just have these tools. Do you call them tools?
Yeah. Sometimes
quote,
not great
tools.
tools,
Typically
but
don't
yes.
refer to TikTok as a tool.
We have
I
this
find that AI
information at our fingertips that we feel like are tools, perhaps.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I find that AI can be a very helpful tool in certain things, but I have to see it as a tool, not as a friend
Exactly.
or a therapist
Or a therapist.
or a spiritual guidance. Or
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what are some of the pros and cons of this? Because I can see some negatives clearly, but there's got to be some pros.
Sure.
To this.
I mean, there's a lot less stigma by and large of
Yeah.
if you need help for mental health.
Yes.
That is much more readily available. It's much more
Right.
talked about. It's not as much
Yes.
shame as previous generations, perhaps. Now, that's not true in all circles or all churches.
Right.
But we are moving that way. So that is definitely a positive. We're more I think this generation could be called the most emotionally aware generation,
Right.
which can
Fair.
be great. It can lead to a lot of empathy. It can really help. If you lean into it, can help connection. Well, we've talked
Right.
about some of the
Right.
lack of connection we also see.
Yes.
Yes.
But there are a lot of positives that can be from this increased awareness of our
Right.
mental and emotional health.
Yes.
Right.
The cons would just be living in a day and age where we're kind of self-diagnosing everything.
Right.
What we're actually seeing is happening is these are becoming self-fulfilling prophecies.
Sure.
Yes.
So like teens are taking on these diagnoses that they've diagnosed themselves.
Right. Right.
Even if you have an actual diagnosis too, what we're doing is we're using them as identities, as
Right.
labels of like, this is who I am, which is a
Mhm.
very fixed mindset.
Yes.
Yes.
And then that's defining ourselves by perhaps what's wrong or what's not whole, instead of looking into a picture of growth and
Yes. Potential
well-being. And
yes.
yes. And so it's really kind of flipped the script.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I can see, I think one of the things of this generation in a lot of ways is they're very stuck.
Yes.
And so I think that
Mhm.
kind of leans into that.
Yeah. And there, like some researchers will say there's a lack of sturdiness,
Yeah.
lack of resilience to
Yeah.
overcome things because, well, this is just who I am.
Yes.
What are some of the real unique challenges? Because every generation has faced real unique challenges. And every generation right above them has decried the
Right.
terrible generation below them.
Yes.
For a while there, you had to make fun of millennials. Like it was the thing.
Right, right.
Millennials at work, and they gotta take personal health days, and so we're in some ways we're repeating that same process. And
Sure.
but it's
Been
been
done
happening
forever. Yeah.
forever, right? Every grandmother ever tells it's worse than it was when I was a kid,
Back in my
and the
day.
drugs and the rock and roll. All right, so and the vaping. How much more?
Do grandmas know about vaping?
I don't know. They should. It looks like a USB drive. It's not good for them. It does. A bunch of kids pulling USB drives out of their pockets. Okay. Derail this there for a moment. I apologize. Stephanie, what are some of the real challenges Gen Z faces that are unique to any other generation?
Oh, is that what you were asking?
That
Yeah.
was
Okay.
where I was going.
Well, I do feel
Yikes.
kind of sorry for this generation. They're the guinea pigs. They're the first generation to grow up from birth with smartphones and technology quite literally at their fingertips.
Yes.
And so, we just are figuring this out as we go. So they've had to be the guinea pigs. And
sure.
as we learn, maybe these things aren't all good for us.
Yes.
And so that is definitely a unique challenge. they're also, because they're the most connected generation, I mean, they're being flooded constantly with bad news.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we're not meant as humans to have the capacity to take in that amount of hardship and bad news from all the
Yes.
way around the world at every
Yes.
second of the day. And that really does something to our spirits and our psyches, because we just can't even fathom all the pain and suffering that is just thrown in our faces constantly.
Right.
And so, especially think of like a young person developing.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you even hold all that? You can't.
Right. Right.
Well, I mean, and you see that trickle up to us as parents. Like we're seeing all the pain and suffering in the world and the impact it's having on us as parents. So, yeah, that's a tough.
Is part of that why it's building a good empathy though? Like it's the positive reframe in some ways that yes, they're seeing that, but they're also going like, so we got to be something or do something in the world. Like one of the future ones will be about purpose.
Yes,
like,
we'll talk about that some.
We want a kingdom purpose because we see all
brokenness
that's broken in the world.
And it's important for them to see that if they're involved in church, they actually care more about seeing what the church is doing in the world than even about what they're learning about in the Bible. Like they care, what are you doing about it? So it is, that's the positive side is it's causing this orientation to want to step in and do something about all the problems.
You know, it's that access to just all the brokenness and the sadness in the world, but it also is just access to just sheer information.
Yes. Our brains cannot handle all that.
I know mine can't. So it's getting worse every day. So so just that, you know, when you think about anxiety and things like that, it's just because it's like, I don't even know
constant.
what am I supposed to be paying attention to.
Yes.
But then part of the problem in my view is that then they look to social media for answers.
Yes.
So, I mean, you mentioned TikTok. Like, so when you go to TikTok for answers, like, what is it that you end up missing? What is a teen missing when they say, hey, this is so hard, I'm going to go see what?
Well, I think they're initially, drawn to social media platforms like TikTok because they feel a level of, oh, I'm not the only one. Look at all this whole community of people that are struggling with the same thing I am. But the algorithms that I don't understand are then continue feeding you more and more of that, which is not actually helping pull you outside of yourself.
Right.
And so it's kind of a just endless rabbit hole. Of just constant, again, defining this is who I am. Look at all these other people. We're all in this together. We're struggling, which can feel like community, but it's really not community because what they're
not a healthy community for sure.
And they're missing out on the actual face-to-face engaged community that we've talked about in the previous episode of the sense of connection. They're just lacking actual depth of connection.
Yeah, that's really good. I would also tell the 16-year-old version of myself, going back to our original question, to pay attention in that statistics class about algorithms, because I also don't know what they are. I know somebody taught me once in the statistics class what an algorithm was.
I'm not sure your high school stat class would really
I don't know. I liked that class.
I took statistics twice. I liked it
I
so
did
much.
Too. Well, I took it in high school and college.
Well, I took it twice in college. So.
Oh, you took it twice for other reasons.
Yes, because I was so fascinated by the content.
That's why I'm the researcher and you're not. Kelly.
Yes, that is correct.
Gosh, I knew exactly why Kelly took it twice.
But I appreciate her. Oh, it was high school.
I was thinking the best of you.
Yeah, I was not. All right. So we've talked a lot about the teens and how they're so messed up. So what, as adults or not, I love the Gen Zers that I work with every day. I legitimately do. Okay, so but how do we as adults impact the way kids face challenges? Like what is it that, like, all right, let's start to think about parenting and how we help change the story for them. Like what is it that we can do?
Oh man, Gen Z needs such a dose of perspective.
Yes.
So they're just stuck in this spiral of me and my problems, and I see the world's problems. And what they really need is a larger story of there can be both, if you use church language, maybe lament, but also hope. They need such a picture of hope that we have. For us as believers, we have hope in the gospel, and that's such a beautiful story to be invited into.
Yes.
But just hope and resilience of like, we will struggle. There will be hard. This is not to minimize the struggles we're going through. We're not trying to pretend the struggle's not real,
Right.
but we're just trying to show you that that's not the whole story.
Right.
Right.
And so I think we've seen this taken to the extreme in terms of even like the language we use.
Okay.
Of if everything is a trauma all of a sudden, then it really minimizes real hard traumas.
Right.
And then it
Yeah.
also tells a teen, oh gosh, if this little thing's a trauma that
Mm.
I'm struggling with, there's no way I could ever get over anything
Right.
bigger than that.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yes.
so even just being aware of the language we're using.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the things that the ranch does really well over at the school, we have our morning devotion times, and we'll bring in different people that have been through just some really horrific things, and they'll share very, raw
Mhm.
in terms of
Yeah.
how difficult and hard it was. But like the story didn't end there,
Right.
like
Yes.
in
Right.
how they would come out of it. And I just think that it does speak to the gospel. If you're a believer, God's promises, I am making you new. I'll make you a new person in me.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and
that brings a lot of
one of
perspective,
Yeah.
and hope.
one of the advantages we have as adults is that we can remember what it was like when we were that age, right? And we
Yes.
can
Yeah.
remember the perspective. And the kids, my children, and people that I've worked with in the past, like they don't always appreciate my perspective, but
Shocking.
I know. But it's such that like, hey, I really know what
I
that
really
feels
do
like,
know. Yeah.
and I also know. No, I don't want to minimize, but like the world is not going to end. Like I understand it's hard, it's challenging. You did do poorly on that test, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so like the world is not ending because this happened, and it helps give that context.
One thing we try to always just talk about truth. Like what is actually true.
Yes.
The true thing is you had a really hard day.
Yes.
That's good.
Is it true that your entire school year has been miserable and there's been no bright spots?
That's right.
That's not true.
Yes.
That's right.
You can acknowledge, yes, today was miserable. We all
Yes.
have miserable days. And that's not the entire picture.
Yes.
And so that's something we try to do in our family of like, name the truth.
Name the truth.
Yes.
You brought me to a quote in your thing. I said I was going to read the quote because it's my favorite quote that I've read in it so far. Resilience comes when Christians remind one another of the truth that is truer than our deepest misery. Alan Noble wrote that in his book called
Getting Out of Bed, I
On
think.
Getting Out of Bed. And I love that we're reminding ourselves of a truth that's truer than our deepest misery. That you are sad, and it is sad. The truth is that was hard. And there is something truer and greater than your deepest sadness. And God meets you in that, and he points us to something that's greater and grander. In that, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's a
and not just
beautiful
doing a
thing.
calloused way of like
Right.
dismissing the hard.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know the song "Be Kind to Yourself" by Andrew Peterson?
Oh yes.
I love that song. I like it. It's one of those that like what he challenges in his daughter in that song is that idea that like you're hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Like
Yes.
speak God's truth.
Yes.
Like that God loves you no matter what it is you're going through. Like I just think it's a beautiful song. And so how do parents, you spoke to this a little bit right here, but like how do we model holding the tension of lament and hope together for our kids? Some of it is what we say, but then how is it that we can sort of show that in our actions?
Yeah. Well, if I can bring in some research here, I thought this was really fascinating. The study studied nearly 2,000 children that had severe childhood mistreatment, so lots of abuse.
Okay.
And researchers found that the risk of these children having psychopathology was actually associated with how those children remembered the experiences, not in the severity of the experience itself. So
Right.
what this means, in other words, is how we interpret a negative experience has more of an impact on our well-being than the experience itself.
Yes.
And so,
will you say that again?
yeah, so how we interpret a negative experience
Okay.
has more of an impact on our well-being than the actual experience itself. So you could have a very severely horrific experience, but if you have someone helping guide you through
Yes.
lamenting that, but having hope that can actually
Reframe.
help your journey towards well-being more, than someone who had a less severe experience but didn't have anyone guiding them to
Yes.
Wow.
interpreting that in light of lament and hope.
Yes.
Wow. That's what
And so I think as parents or guardians or caregivers,
Right.
any of us working with children,
Yes.
like helping them frame and interpret experiences in light of this bigger story
Yes.
is just so critical.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So then what are some of the ways we can help our kids process their experiences and emotions?
I think naming them accurately. So we talked about that
Gotcha.
trauma word before.
Yeah,
Andy,
yeah.
I know you had some thoughts around like the word trigger.
Don't get them going. You're going to
I had
trigger
to
me
tee 'em
if
up.
Andy.
She's putting the ball on the tee. I just
I'm
get
teeing you up, Andy.
okay. I just get a little irritated at times. It's really more the word trigger than trauma, but like that people talk about getting triggered, and it's just this like. There is legitimate trauma that then there are things that happen that people get triggered.
Exactly.
That like bring up that trauma. But it becomes like a little bit of like I'm feeling so triggered. Like I just.
Instead of like, I didn't like what you said.
Right. Yeah. Like, hey,
Is this hitting close to home?
I'm
or is-
irritated. I don't know what it is about it. I don't like it. Like, hey, you're just irritated. You're not triggered. Like,
Well,
Right.
to her point, like to give accuracy.
Accurate, yes.
that's what I'm saying.
You
Yes.
want accuracy. And
I care about accuracy. I don't know. It is an irritation
Yeah.
for me when people are like, oh, my trauma. And you're like, you like got a bad grade. Like, it's not
Right.
trauma.
Well, and
Like,
it does a disservice to those who have actually experienced
sure.
very real hard trauma that are
Yes.
working through that when we just flippantly use this term to describe any hard experience.
Right.
When that's not what it's just a hard experience.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yes.
so, and yeah, you don't need to try to prove how hard an experience is by labeling it.
That's right.
Yeah.
But but like, please hear me. Like, people experience really hard things.
Of
and I
course,
have like
yes.
You're a
genuine
man of the
compassion.
cloth. Like
I'm a
Where's your-
director of spiritual
Yes,
life,
where's
and here
the
I am.
compassion?
It's I don't know where it is. It's long gone. But yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is right. That if we can name it for what it is, then it's a much healthier. Like in your report somewhere, like this idea that somebody says like, "Oh, that's just my OCD acting up again," and it's like, well, like, have you been diagnosed with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder by a psychiatrist? Because if so, then like, yeah, that sounds really challenging, and let's walk through that.
Yeah.
Is that you sort of using a therapeutic term because you like to wash your hands? Like,
Right.
like the two are not
Yes.
necessarily the same, and to name it one thing is not to tell
Exactly.
the truth about really what's going on.
Exactly.
And I think it stunts the ability to move past it if you're giving yourself this label that's not even not even a good label.
Right.
And then it's back to being stuck in, well, it's just.
And we can
how I
also
am.
apply this then to other people. So much what we see is, ChatGPT really likes to diagnose other people's family members as narcissists.
Yes. Yes. Everybody is a
Yes.
narcissist, for sure.
But that's not always the most helpful way to then go about repairing relationships by labeling other
Right,
people.
right.
I love to be labeled. You like, yeah.
I am thinking about though the parent or the kid who, maybe is goes, okay, I'm going to challenge my kid, and the kid just throws their arms like, you don't understand me, like you didn't grow up in a world with whatever it might be. Like, what would you say to the parent? How would we speak to the parent who says like, I'm trying to help contextualize and change the story for my kid, and my kid is not hearing it, they're not having it, they're saying no, and they
Off the deep end.
and they
Yeah.
slam the door and they say, you're the dumbest parent ever. Kind of let's talk about that
Yeah.
tension for a second.
I would know from experience that these kind of conversations do not go well in the heat of the moment.
Okay.
So you're not
from
trying to
experience.
bring perspective when a child is really wanting to wallow in their emotions.
Okay.
You need to
Because
let
they're
them
not
wallow
going to
in
hear.
it.
Yes, sometimes you need space and you need to cool down and you revisit, like, hey, you had a really big reaction to that yesterday. Let's talk about that a little bit. Is that something that you think needs that big reaction?
Yeah.
Why not? And so kind of that holding space for that. And then again, it's a journey. We're just, can this just become part of how you talk as a family? As I'm talking about
Yes.
my own hard things going on, how am I talking about like it's the end of the world that I was late to some meeting or whatnot? Or am I like, oh man, that was really tough. And I don't like when I feel like I'm being irresponsible, but I was able to move on. And like, how are we
Yes.
talking about our own stories? So it just
Yes,
becomes
that's
part of the
good.
fabric of the family instead of trying to pin everything on one.
Yeah. And I think
instance.
it's like continuing, it's a dialogue. It's not a one-time, oh, I blew
Yes.
it and therefore I can never bring it up again. It's,
Yes. And when we do, like, I overreact to things, and I've had to go back to my kids and be like, hey, mommy, like, overreacted a little bit in traffic. Like, I really could have handled that better. And I'm sorry, I got a little out of control there.
Yeah.
And so then they see you acknowledging, like, oh, we can recover.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Can I tell a quick story about a time that I blew it?
Oh, we would
we'd
love
love to hear
that.
it,
We're,
Andy.
I won't say which of my children this happened with, but there was like a Sunday morning laundry incident. And
no.
somebody couldn't find the shorts that they needed or the pants that they needed. I can't remember shorts or
I think
pants.
this is really about
And-
Andy, but go ahead.
And there was a claim that everyone is stealing their laundry. Everybody is taking my
Yes.
laundry, and and now I can't find my pants. And there was a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling. And so I, as the loving father, said, yes, everybody wants to take your pants that wouldn't fit them and met them with ultimate sarcasm. I had an opportunity later that day to say, hey, I'm sorry about the way that I spoke to you. Nobody is stealing your pants. And I should not have spoken to you that way. But man, I was fired up, and we stopped walking into church. I mean, in the
It's
hall.
always going to church.
It was like one of those.
That's every Sunday morning.
Something like, you better get yourself right, or I mean, there was some threats. It wasn't great, guys.
Yeah.
But there was people around, so I kept it pretty much under control. Gosh, man.
But I think when we mess up, sometimes that's one of the greatest things we can give our kids if we handle it right.
Right.
Because one, we're going to mess up, but it takes so much of the pressure off everybody.
Well, it models humility, forgiveness,
Yeah.
repentance, resilience. It models all those things we want our kids to learn.
And I can get caught up in a moment just like anybody else, so.
I don't know that I modeled resilience or any of those things that day. I did have to say sorry, but I don't think I modeled anything that I want to happen. Steph, I think this has been super helpful for us as we think about this. And I think it's a challenge to me as a parent raising children in the Gen Z to think about how am I both modeling and then lovingly challenging their perspective and helping them to kind of think about changing the story. So thank you so much
Good stuff.
to
for
be
your
here.
willingness
So
to be here and to talk about it. And we hope that if you're listening or if you're watching, that you enjoyed today and it helped you. And whether you're feeling the weight of the digital world or just trying to build a thicker community for kids, we hope this episode gave you a sense of hope.
Yes, and remember, this is a 2-part conversation. So we just covered the research with Dr. Shackelford, and next week we're going to have some folks in here to share a little bit of real world, how this plays out in the real world.
So next week is super exciting because we have some actual Gen Zers from the wild who will be in here.
They are gunning for us, Andy. They are gunning for us.
I believe it. So tune in next week. We'd love to have you. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. It's the best way to help other parents find this community.
Yes, and as always, connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. We want to hear how you are implementing these ideas in your own family.
Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week.